This video lesson is on America's early political beginnings. What basic concepts of government were held by the American colonists? The English colonists in America brought with them three main concepts. First was a need for an ordered social system or government. Second, the idea of limited government. That is, that government should not be all-powerful. Third, the concept of representative government, a government that services the will of the people. Which important English documents have had the most influence on our government? The Magna Carta, the English Bill of Rights, the Virginia Bill of Rights, and the Bill of Rights have played an important role in our political history and the concept of limited government. How are the governments of the 13 colonies organized? The royal colonies were ruled directly by the English monarchy. The king granted land to people in North America, who then formed proprietary colonies. The charter colonies were mostly self-governed, and their charters were granted to the colonists. What were Britain's colonial policies, and how did the colonists react to them? Until the mid-1700s, the colonies were allowed a great deal of freedom in their governments by the English monarchy. In 1760, King George III imposed new taxes and laws on the colonists. The colonists started a confederation, proposed an annual congress, and began to rebel. In 1643, several New England settlements formed the New England Confederation. A confederation is a joining of several groups for a common purpose. In 1754, Benjamin Franklin proposed the Albany Plan of Union, in which an annual Congress of delegates, meaning representatives, from each of the 13 colonies would be formed. In 1765, a group of colonies sent delegates to the Stamp Act Congress in New York. These delegates prepared the Declaration of Rights and Grievances against British policies and sent it to the king. What were the outcomes of the First and Second Continental Congress? At the First Continental Congress, the colonists sent a Declaration of Rights to King George III. The delegates urged each of the colonies to refuse all trade with England until British tax and trade regulations were repealed or recalled. At the Second Continental Congress in 1775, each of the 13 colonies sent representatives to this gathering in Philadelphia. The Second Continental Congress served as the first government of the United States from 1776 to 1781. How did American independence come about, and what were its effects? On July 4, 1776, the Second Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence. Between 1776 and 1777, most of the states adopted constitutions instead of charters. Common features of state constitutions included popular sovereignty, limited government, civil rights and liberties, separation of powers, and checks and balances. What were the Articles of Confederation? The Articles of Confederation established a firm league of friendship among the states. Congress was given the power to declare war, deal with national finance issues, and settle disputes among the states. The states promised to obey Congress and to respect the laws of the other states. Most other powers were retained by each state. Why were the 1780s a critical period in United States history? There were many problems with liberty, and there were many weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation. One vote for each state, regardless of size. Congress was powerless to lay and collect taxes or duties. Congress was powerless to regulate foreign and interstate commerce. No executive to enforce acts of Congress. No national court system. Amendments only with the consent of all states. 9 of the 13 states were required to pass laws, and the Articles were only a firm league of friendship. What did America do to create a stronger government in the 1780s? Representatives from Maryland and Virginia met at Mount Vernon, Virginia in 1785 to discuss trade issues. The meeting was so successful that the Virginia General Assembly requested a meeting of all 13 states, which eventually became the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia. Who were the framers of the Constitution? There were many leaders of the Philadelphia Convention. James Madison was the co-author of the Articles of Confederation. Gouverneur Morris was a lawyer who helped develop the United States system of money. Alexander Hamilton was a lawyer who favored a strong central government. George Washington was the successful leader of the Continental Army. Some famous leaders were not at the Philadelphia Convention. Patrick Henry said, "I smell a rat," and refused to attend. Samuel Adams and John Hancock were not selected as delegates by their states. Thomas Jefferson and Thomas Paine were in Paris. John Adams was on diplomatic missions to England and Holland. What were the differences between the Virginia Plan and the New Jersey Plan, and what were some of the compromises at the Constitutional Convention? The New Jersey Plan favored smaller states, including one national legislature, meaning equal representation for all states. Congress is given expanded powers to regulate tax and commerce. State laws were subordinate to laws passed by the national legislature. The Virginia Plan favored larger states. Legislature consisting of two houses, a lower house, where states were represented directly by their population, and an upper house that was elected by the state legislature. The Great Compromise called for a bicameral legislature. The lower house, states represented by population. Each slave counted as 3/5 of a person. This favored the larger states. The upper house, states should be represented equally with 2 members apiece. This favored the smaller states. What sources did the delegates draw on, and how did they react when they completed the Constitution? The framers were familiar with political writings of their time, such as works by Rousseau and Locke. They also were seasoned variously by the Second Continental Congress, the Articles of Confederation, and experiences with their own state governments. When the Constitution was complete, the framers' opinions of their work varied. Some were disappointed, like George Mason of Virginia, who opposed the Constitution until his death in 1792. Most agreed with Ben Franklin's thoughts when he said, "From such an assembly of fallible men, can a perfect production be expected? It astonished me, sir, to find this system approaching so near to perfection as it does." Who were the Federalists and Anti-Federalists? The Constitution was very controversial at first, with some groups supporting it and others attacking it. The Federalists favored ratification of the Constitution, favored a powerful federal government, argued a Bill of Rights was not needed as federal power was already limited, and supported the Federalist Papers. The Anti-Federalists opposed ratification of the Constitution, wanted a weak federal government that would not threaten states' rights, wanted a Bill of Rights to declare and protect the rights of the people. Ratification process. The Federalists promise addition of a Bill of Rights. Ratification succeeded. New government formed in 1789. James Madison drafts 10 amendments to the Constitution. These become the United States Bill of Rights. How long did the ratification of the Constitution take? 9 states ratified the Constitution by June 21st, 1788, but the new government needed the ratification of the large states of New York and Virginia. Great debates were held in both states, with Virginia ratifying the Constitution June 25th, 1788. New York's ratification was hard fought. Supporters of the Constitution published a series of essays known as the Federalist. What happened after its ratification? The new Congress met for the first time on March 4th, 1789. Congress finally attained a quorum, meaning a majority, on April 6th and counted the electoral votes. Congress found that George Washington had every single vote and was elected president. He was inaugurated on April 30th.